The stars burned cold above the agricultural world of New Haven as Warlord stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Crimson Devastator. His four eyes scanned the blue and green planet below with hungry anticipation. For 300 years, his species, had conquered 17 star systems. They had crushed civilizations that existed for thousands of years. They had never known defeat. New Haven was supposed to be an easy target. Intelligence reports showed it was merely a farming colony. There were no military installations, no defensive fleets, just 40,000 humans living in small towns and villages scattered across the fertile valleys. Most of them were families with children. They had chosen this target specifically because it was weak. Smiled with his razor-filled mouth. He had already sent his message to the colony. Surrender everything. Give us your food supplies. Give us your technology. Give us half your population as slaves. Do this, or we will burn your world until nothing remains but ash. The humans had 12 hours to respond. In the colony's capital city of Harmony, Governor Martinez gathered the emergency council. She was a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her dark hair and eyes that had seen hardship. Around her sat teachers, farmers, engineers, and parents. None of them were soldiers. The message from the fleet played again on the screen. The alien warlord's threats echoed through the room. Several people were crying. Others held their children close. "What do we do?" asked Thomas, the colony's head engineer. "We have no weapons, no military. We are just farmers and builders." Looked at the faces around her. She saw fear. She saw desperation. But underneath all of that, she saw something else. She saw the stubborn fire that had driven humanity across the stars. The same fire that had helped their ancestors survive ice ages, plagues, and wars. "We do what humans have always done," said quietly. "We fight back." The council erupted in confusion. How could they fight? They had nothing. They had warships and weapons that could level cities. New Haven did not even have a proper police force. Raised her hand for silence. "I did not say we would fight fair." Within hours, the colony transformed. Every engineer, every scientist, every farmer with knowledge of chemistry or mechanics gathered in the central warehouse. Plans were drawn on walls. Materials were collected from every corner of the colony. The farming equipment was taken apart. Fertilizer compounds were carefully separated into their chemical components. Mining charges used for clearing rock were modified. Navigation satellites were. Even the children's science fair projects were examined for useful materials. Maria Santos, a grandmother who had worked in demolition before retiring to New Haven, took charge of weapons production. She had not built an explosive device in 20 years, but the knowledge came back to her hands like an old song. "To think we are helpless because we have no military weapons," she told her team. "But humans invented destruction long before we invented peace." In the colony's agricultural research center, Dr. James worked through the night. He was a biologist who studied plant diseases. Now he studied something far more dangerous. They had conquered many worlds, but they had never encountered human creativity applied to warfare. "Their biology is silicon-based," James explained to his assistants. "They breathe nitrogen-rich atmosphere. They are allergic to certain chemical compounds that are harmless to carbon-based life." He held up a small vial of clear liquid. "This is extracted from common earth fruits. To us, it is just citric acid. To them, it is devastating." The 12-hour deadline approached. Stood proudly on his command deck, waiting for the human surrender. He had done this many times before. The weak species always surrendered. They always begged for mercy. He enjoyed their begging. His communication officer turned to him with confusion on his face. "Warlord, we are receiving a response from the human colony." "Put it through." Governor Martinez appeared on the screen. Behind her stood hundreds of colonists, men, women, and children. They did not look afraid. They looked determined. "Warlord," said calmly, On behalf of the 40,000 humans of New Haven, I have a message for you. Leaned forward with amusement. You accept our terms. No, his voice was steel. We reject your terms completely, and I want to tell you something that you clearly do not understand about humans. The warlord laughed. What could you possibly tell me, farmer woman? We are not a military colony, that is true. We have no warships, that is also true, but you made a terrible mistake when you chose to threaten our children. Eyes burned with cold fury. There is nothing in this universe more dangerous than a human protecting their family. We have fought bears with our bare hands. We have walked through fire. We have crossed frozen mountains carrying our wounded. We do not surrender our children, ever. Some amusement turned to anger. Then you choose death. No, replied, you did. The transmission ended. Ordered the invasion to begin immediately. 200 landing craft descended toward New Haven's surface. Each craft carried 50 warriors armed with plasma weapons, 10,000 soldiers ready to crush the helpless farmers. The first wave landed in the wheat fields outside Harmony. The warriors emerged confidently, their weapons ready. The fields were empty. The colonists were nowhere to be seen. Then the ground exploded. The mining charges buried beneath the soil detonated in a chain reaction. 24 landing craft were destroyed instantly. Hundreds of warriors were thrown into the air. The beautiful wheat fields became a crater-filled wasteland. The surviving regrouped and pushed forward toward the city. They moved through the orchards, seeking cover among the fruit trees. That was their second mistake. Doctor's team had spent hours spraying the trees with concentrated citric acid solution. The moment they touched the leaves, their silicon-based skin began to burn and dissolve. Their screams echoed across the valley. Commander Hal, leading the ground forces, demanded air support. Attack ships descended from orbit, ready to level the city. But the colonists had the navigation satellites. False signals led the ships into the mountain ranges, where they crashed against rock faces they could not see until it was too late. The warriors who reached the city found it empty. The streets were silent. The buildings seemed abandoned. They moved carefully through the residential areas, checking each house. In the shadows, human hunters waited. Not soldiers. Teachers who had learned to shoot during colony defense training. Farmers who knew every inch of their land. Parents who would die before letting harm come to their children. They had heat-seeking equipment, but the colonists had distributed chemical heating packs throughout the city. Every building, every alley, every corner showed heat signatures. The invaders could not tell which were humans and which were decoys. Ambushes came from everywhere. Modified farming tools became weapons. Chemical mixtures that were harmless to humans but devastating to silicon-based life rained down from rooftops. They had trained to fight armies. They had no experience fighting a population that refused to be conquered. Commander Hal sent desperate messages to the Crimson Devastator. We are being slaughtered. These are not soldiers. They are farmers and teachers. How is this possible? On the flagship, watched in disbelief as his invasion force was destroyed piece by piece. He had conquered 17 star systems. He had crushed species with advanced technology and proper militaries. Now he was losing to humans with farming equipment and kitchen chemicals. He made his final mistake. In his rage, he ordered orbital bombardment of the capital city. The humans had anticipated this possibility. The entire population had evacuated through underground tunnels built originally for emergency weather shelters. When the plasma fire rained from the sky, it hit empty buildings. But the colonists had left a gift in the city center. Every fuel cell from every vehicle in the colony had been gathered there. Every flammable chemical compound. Every modified explosive device that remained. Once bombardment hit the cache, the resulting explosion was visible from orbit. The shockwave traveled upward through the atmosphere with unexpected force. The satellites designed to coordinate the attack were destroyed. Now the flagship was blind and deaf. No communication with the surviving ground forces, no sensor data from the planet below, and the humans were not finished. A single shuttle rose from New Haven's surface. It was an old cargo vessel, barely functional. They ignored it. What threat could one small ship pose to a warship? Martinez piloted the shuttle herself. She had volunteered for this mission because she could not ask anyone else to take the risk. In the cargo hold sat the colony's entire remaining supply of modified mining charges, packed around a core of agricultural chemicals that would react violently with the nitrogen atmosphere inside ships. She aimed directly for the Crimson Devastator's landing bay. Finally understood the danger when it was too late. He watched the tiny shuttle approaching and realized what was happening. He ordered evasive action, but his massive flagship was slow. He ordered the shuttle destroyed, but his weapons could not target something so small at such close range. Sent one final message as her shuttle entered the landing bay. "My are on that planet, my neighbors, my friends. You threatened them. This is what happens when you threaten human families." The explosion tore through the heart of the Crimson Devastator. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition and fuel ignited. Had exactly 3 seconds to understand that his 300 years of conquest had ended because he underestimated farmers. On New Haven's surface, the colonists emerged from their shelters. They watched the flagship break apart in orbit, pieces of burning metal falling like stars across the night sky. The surviving invasion forces, cut off from command and supplies, surrendered within hours. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. A farming colony with no military had destroyed an entire invasion fleet. A warlord who had conquered 17 star systems was killed by a grandmother flying a cargo shuttle. Other species took notice. For centuries, they had wondered about the strange creatures from Earth who spread so quickly across the stars. Now they understood. Humans were not dangerous because of their technology or their weapons. They were dangerous because they would do absolutely anything to protect their own. The Empire sent diplomats instead of soldiers the following year. They requested peace with humanity. They asked to learn from these impossible people who turned farming tools into weapons and faced death without fear. New Haven was rebuilt within 5 years. A statue of Governor Martinez stood in the center of the new capital city. The inscription read simply, "She protected her family." And across the galaxy, species who had once considered humans as potential targets changed their minds. The lesson was clear and simple. Humans might seem peaceful. They might be farmers and teachers and builders. But threaten their children, and they would find ways to destroy you that you never imagined possible. That was the true nature of humanity. Not conquest, not aggression. Simply an absolute refusal to let anyone harm the people they loved. And that made them the most dangerous species in the known universe.